Everybody good? Oh, that's nice. Thanks everybody for coming today. I've got, Mike, come on over. Doug, got some, thanks very much for coming today. This has been a real terrific day to be with the Prime Minister and his cabinet team, as well as my colleagues, Jen Rice, who's coming over, Mike Farnworth and Doug Donaldson, as two levels of government work together to meet the challenges for people in the region as we fight with devastating fires going into now the 4th week since this began. It's been a very difficult time for the people in the region, very difficult time for the first responders located here in Williams Lake. And on behalf of all of us, I just want to tip my hat to the work that they've been doing tirelessly day after day, week after week, putting themselves in harm's way to help people, which is what Canadians do. And I'm so pleased to have the Prime Minister here with his team to talk to you about how we are working together to make sure that not just while this crisis is going on, but after this crisis, the federal government's going to be there for British Columbia, the BC government's going to be there for the people of this region, and I know working with Indigenous nations as well as local communities, we're going to make sure that people are whole when this thing is over. It's been a difficult time, but Canadians come together in times of adversity, and this is a classic example of that. And with that, I'll ask the Prime Minister to say a few words, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Premier Horgan, for your leadership on this, for your welcome, for the great work that your team has been doing with our team. I'm pleased to be here today with Jatinder Sidhu, who's the MP for Fraser Canyon. What is it? Mission Maskey, Fraser Canyon. Carla Qualtrough, who's Minister of Sport and Persons with Disabilities, but also chair of the ad hoc committee that we've put together on wildfires here in BC, both to deal with the issues as they come up through this emergency phase, but to follow up as we get into cleanup and rebuild. The federal government's cabinet committee will be chaired by her. Also, Harjit Sajjan, our Minister of National Defence, who of course is very pleased with the great presence and the strong leadership of our Canadian forces in partnership with the emergency responders here. It's great to see everyone working together so completely, as well as Jody Wilson-Raybould, who's our Minister of Justice and Attorney General, also a proud British Columbian, and she's been very active as well as we work through some of the issues with Indigenous communities and how they find their best path in working with other orders of government and making sure that they're keeping their communities safe. I also want to give out a shout out to Todd Doherty, who is the local MP, a Conservative, but he's been extremely helpful and positive in how we've prepared this visit, and also been very, very strong on the ground. And I always like to give shout outs to strong constituency MPs. He's right now in a little further north doing some other political stuff, but it's important for Canadians to see that in times of difficulty, everyone pulls together. We lean on each other, we work together, we coordinate to be able to solve big challenges. My purpose in being here today mostly is to say thank you on behalf of all Canadians to the first responders who are stepping up, working long hours and days. I saw cots in the Emergency Management Centre as people have been staying overnight. I've seen people just on the edge of exhaustion, pushing through, motivated by the extraordinary support they're getting from communities that are themselves touched by the extraordinary hard work of first responders. It really is something that highlights the best of who Canadians are. In times of difficulty, we're there for each other, we stick with each other. I also had the opportunity to meet up with local First Nations leaders to thank them for the great work they're doing in collaboration with others, but also demonstrating their own capacity to protect their communities from fires as well. We have many lessons learned and many things we need to move forward together on in partnership. You always learn through these experiences, and being able to work with First Nations leadership the province, the federal government, and all our partners to do even better in the future is something that we're very much focused on. I got to tour some of the wildfire areas in a helicopter with a number of the team and really saw the extent and the scale of the devastation and damage. I mean, there's no question that there's massive areas affected, and on a beautiful day like this, we can't necessarily realize how serious it is out there, but that really leads me to want to emphasize to everyone how important it is to listen to municipal officials, to the BC Wildfire Service, to provincial governments and the federal partners. When there's evacuation orders, when there's evacuation alerts, please, please, please respect them. The focus that everyone has is on keeping communities safe, keeping individuals safe, doing the best possible things, and even though it might not seem serious from your own perspective, what might be coming could be very serious. So please, please listen to the recommendations people make. C'est un grand plaisir pour moi d'être ici pour pouvoir souligner le grand travail, la belle coordination qui se passe entre tous les partenaires ici dans cette situation d'urgence, mais aussi pour mettre l'emphase que c'est ce que les Canadiens font. On est là les uns pour les autres dans des moments de difficulté et nous allons continuer d'être là pendant les mois à venir, pendant qu'on rebâtit, pendant qu'on nettoie les dégâts de ces terribles feux. Mais je veux vraiment remercier tout le monde pour l'accueil, mais surtout pour le grand travail qu'ils ont fait. Je suis maintenant très content de prendre vos questions. Happy to take your questions now.
Prime Minister Melanie Nagy, CTV National News. You saw just a portion of BC burning, charred landscape. You know our forests. Just for people that haven't seen what you saw, the first question would be, can you describe a bit of that and your reaction to that? As well, the second question would be a lot of questions today around matching funds to the Canadian Red Cross. A lot of people wondering, well, it was done in Fort McMurray where the federal government matched Canadian donors. Why not this time?
First of all, the scale of the area affected, of which in an hour tour in a helicopter we only saw a small portion, is extraordinarily large. We saw where the fire jumped 4 or 5 kilometers across the Fraser Canyon, or about a kilometer across the Fraser Canyon from plateau to plateau, and then burnt down into the valleys. The speed at which it can flare up, the way it could cut across roads, really impressed upon me the extraordinary work being done by our incredible wildfire professionals who are working extremely hard, by international partners who are here, and again, just impresses upon me just how extraordinary BC is specifically at dealing with wildfires, and I'm glad that the federal government through the Canadian Armed Forces can play a supporting role, but recognizing the extraordinary excellence of everyone in this center and everyone out there on the ground is the first thing that really I understood from being able to see the scale of the challenge, but also the successes of fires stopped just short of a runway, of ranches surrounded by blackened areas that still standing because of the efforts of our firefighting crews. On the Red Cross, I have had over the course of my past years of political life, amazing opportunities to see what the Red Cross does, whether it's terrible disasters from Lac Mégantic to High River in Calgary, floods to floods back east, to Fort McMurray last year, or to right here, and what the Red Cross is doing to support evacuees. We are always incredibly happy, and I know I speak for everyone here, to have the Canadian Red Cross as a strong and present partner dealing with unimaginable hardship for so many people. That's why I was glad to be in Revelstoke a few days ago doing an event to encourage people to donate, and I'll do it again right now. It's super easy to donate. You can just text the word BC Fires to 20222 to give a $10 donation to the Canadian Red Cross. It'll help families who are displaced or under evacuation here in BC, and it goes a long way to help out. So please, encouraging people to do that. As to the way we're supporting the Red Cross, we work with partners. We listen to the BC chapter of the Red Cross on the best way Canada can support, the federal government can support. We've announced $27 million so far, but that could rise depending on the needs up to $50 million. We know that directly helping evacuees is what is going to make a huge difference, and that's exactly what we're doing. But we listen to the experts on how the best way for us to help would be, and that's what we've done.
Esther Bégin de Radio-Canada et RDI. Monsieur le Premier ministre, on connaît vos racines profondes ici en Colombie-Britannique. C'est une terre de connaissances pour vous. J'aimerais avoir votre toute première réaction au moment de survoler l'ampleur des dégâts ici à Williams Lake. Et comme deuxième question, on sait que votre gouvernement a déjà fait une annonce pour aider les sinistrés il y a quelques jours. Est-ce que votre gouvernement a l'intention d'en faire plus à la lumière de ce que vous avez constaté ici aujourd'hui?
D'abord, certainement, en tant que quelqu'un avec des racines profondes ici en Colombie-Britannique, ça m'a touché de façon très dure de voir autant de paysages magnifiques calcinés, l'impact terrible sur les forêts que je vois. Mais en même temps, je vois aussi la force de la Colombie-Britannique, la force de l'entraide, la force des premiers répondants et des experts en feu qui ont pu sauver tellement d'endroits et tellement de gens. C'est un encouragement. Les gens de Colombie-Britannique savent très bien comment protéger et chérir leur magnifique paysage, et ils vont continuer de le faire, et ils sont très résilients, et je suis très, très content de l'avoir vu. Par rapport à l'appui, le gouvernement fédéral sera là pour appuyer les communautés, les individus en difficulté. On continue de travailler avec la province pour pouvoir appuyer, et on va continuer d'être là pendant la phase de reconstruction. Les Canadiens sont là les uns pour les autres en moment de difficulté. On est là pour aider maintenant, mais on sera là pour aider dans l'avenir aussi.
Anita Bath with CBC News. First, we spoke to a lot of locals yesterday who were quite angry about the fact that you're only coming here now on day 26. What do you say to them beyond not wanting to be a distraction? And second question is, we spoke with the mayor of this city today who said, you know, a lot of small businesses are really suffering. They haven't been able to open yet. And a lot of them are tourism based. What is the federal government going to do to help those small businesses?
First of all, I'm incredibly pleased to be here today to be able to encourage the first responders, thank them on behalf of all Canadians, and see for myself and through me, all Canadians get to see the extent of the damage and the devastation from these fires, and how serious a situation it is. I'm pleased to be here now, but as always, my first priority is not getting in the way of the work that emergency services do, the incredible work, the incredible resources being laid out for that. It's extremely important to allow the folks here to do their work. I can say that the ministers have been up many times. The Premier and his team have been out quite a bit, but we were looking for a time for me to come where we would be able to thank people but not get in the way. I think that's what everyone expects. In regards to the costs of these fires, the impact on businesses, the impact on local economy, the impact on tourism. These are all things that we're going to continue to discuss with local leaders, with the province into the future. We know people are having a very difficult time right now because of the ongoing emergency, but there will be challenges to come in the months to come that we will also be there for. This is what Canadians do. We stand up for each other in times of difficulty.
Hi there, Prime Minister. My name is Angie Mindus. I'm with the Williams Lake Tribune, and thank you for coming here. I know everyone's really happy to see you. And my question is just, you know, there's been many local ranchers, First Nations, loggers, resource people who are going to be hit extremely hard by this. Also, for my friend over there, he was asking as well about community events and summer festivals that have been canceled. What can these people expect in terms of economic offering from the federal government?
Well, first of all of our focus right now is on dealing with the current emergency, but at the same time supporting the folks who are going through tough times because of these wildfires. As we go forward, as we get the emergency situation somewhat under control, there will be many discussions on the hardship that local businesses, tourism operators, and communities are facing because of this very difficult summer, even in advance of the official wildfire season, which only starts on the 1st. So we recognize that this is a particularly extreme situation, and I can just assure people that the provincial government, the federal government, all partners will be there to support the economy, to support local business people, to support people rebuilding and moving forward in the success that we know this area certainly deserves.
Ranchers?
Ranchers as well, yes.
I have a question on a different topic, Prime Minister. What specifically is your government going to do to protect Canada against the threat of North Korean missiles, given the recent tensions and tests? And if in English and French, please.
First of all, we condemn in the strongest possible terms the continued actions by North Korea that are provocative and, quite frankly, irresponsible. They're threats to regional security, they're threats to global peace, and we need to continue, and we will continue to work with international allies and partners to put pressure on the North Korean regime to cease this behavior. We know that protecting Canadians and protecting regional security is a top priority for us, and that's why we're going to continue to work to ensure that this does not escalate into threats to Canadians. Nous condamnons dans les termes les plus sévères ces actions par la Corée du Nord qui sont irresponsables et une menace pour la sécurité régionale et pour la paix et stabilité mondiale. Nous allons continuer de travailler avec nos amis, nos partenaires dans la région pour mettre de la pression sur la Corée du Nord pour en finir avec ces actions parce que de protéger les Canadiens, de protéger la sécurité des gens continue d'être une grande priorité pour nous.
As a follow-up to that, if down the road, some type of military action is necessary on the Korean Peninsula, in your opinion, do you think Canada is obliged to join in?
The decision on military engagement is always by necessity made on a case-by-case basis and never in a hypothetical way. We will take seriously our responsibilities towards Canadians, towards the world, and make the appropriate determinations when the time comes, if the time comes.
Last question, thank you.
Hi, Prime Minister. Going back to the fires, and we're up on the chopper there, saw a lot of smoke. I didn't really see any flames. I'm just wondering if you think it was the right decision to evacuate this whole town of Williams Lake.
I think it's always a right decision to listen to the professionals who make very difficult calls based on the information at hand, based on an overarching priority of protecting human life, protecting the life of both the first responders and the emergency services and citizens and ordinary Canadians. We know that the decision to evacuate is never an easy decision to take, and when it is made, it is always by definition the right decision to have taken. I spoke with the professionals in this centre who understand what the consequences of any decision they make, whether to do it or not, and whenever a professional determination is made to evacuate. It's not the responsibility of anyone to second guess that. The responsibility is to understand that the experts involved have made the right call, and we need to follow that. If you want to add to that one.
Yeah, I do. I just want to reinforce the Prime Minister's comments with respect to the professional public service here in British Columbia, keeping in mind that these fires came upon us at a time of transition at the provincial level. Despite that, my first contact with the Prime Minister was on this issue several weeks ago. Minister Sajjan and I have spoken. We've been in constant contact with the federal government. They have been present from day one, offering to help at a moment's notice. With respect to the decisions that are being made here and by Emergency BC, those are made based on a whole bunch of inputs that not everybody has. And just because you can't see smoke from your deck does not mean that the community's not in peril. And ensuring that we can protect the transportation corridors in and out of communities like Williams Lake, like 100 Mile, and so on is critically important to the safety of the community long term. So those decisions, as the Prime Minister said, are made by professionals based on input from a whole bunch of variables, a whole bunch of factors, and first and foremost is the safety of people and communities. And I applaud the work that's been done, and I will stand with them regardless of how people may feel based on how, again, as the Prime Minister says, it's incongruous to be standing here on a beautiful day and being concerned about the weather being our fundamental enemy at this point in time. And we have to be mindful of that. The wind could change in a second and change the situation just like that. So we stand with the professionals today and into the future.
We have one last question here, thanks.
Nadia Stewart from Global News. My first question is actually for the Premier. We've heard some estimates with regards to the cost in terms of daily firefighting.
Yeah.
We've heard $8 million thrown around. Can you give us a sense, first of all, of how much it's costing every day to fight this fire? And then next for the Prime Minister, based on that number, can you give us some more specifics on what kind of help perhaps we can expect here in the province?
Yeah. It's a significant cost on a daily basis. It depends on how many resources have been deployed. We had to make choices early on. Wildfire BC made choices about bringing on crews from outside of the province, from Alberta, from Ontario, from the United States. Now we have Australians here, Albertans, people from Saskatchewan. Those costs start to pile up. You've seen large communities camped just outside of this facility. You have to feed those people, you have to mobilize those people, and that brings additional costs as well. The federal government's incurring significant costs by having a military presence here for evacuation purposes. We've committed $100 million to start. We've supported an additional $600 per every 2 weeks that people are out of their homes as a result of evacuation orders. And we're going to continue to be there for people, not just now, but into the future. An earlier question talked about the consequences, the local question about the consequences for the economy here, whether it's ranching, tourism, or forestry. Those are significant issues that we're going to be dealing with not just in the next number of months, but potentially in the next number of years. So the province is going to be there to help rebuild and to help ensure that the prosperity that we want to see all across British Columbia is happening here in the Cariboo as well.
And all I'll say is that as the federal government has in the past, we will be here for BC. We will be here for people affected with this. The concern is on protecting life, protecting communities, protecting our first responders and emergency services, of course. We will do what is necessary both to protect people now as partners to the provincial government in supporting them in their leadership, but also we will be there for the rebuild. We will be there for the challenges to come in the months to come, and this is a time for us to stand together and for the federal government to once again say we will be there for Canadians in times of difficulty. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.